So we're going to tackle yet again another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. Again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag podcast Patreon, again, patreon.com/protoman. Already covered all the deets in the last video just yesterday, so I'm not going to bother you with that again. I'll wait some time before I give you the whole spiel. But the point being is, come join the Patreon, support the podcast, get your name everywhere, and all that. So let's jump into another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. We got one here from Grimlock Customs. He's got a good one here because it's one that I've talked about a few times but never really put it in one place, so this is a good one. Hey Proto, I got a Patreon listener question for you today. I'm fascinated with Transformers as brand and its seemingly impossible feat of staying relevant in the retail space for nearly 40 years. How does Hasbro manage to keep the brand fresh and relevant for so long? Thank you for all the amazing content till all are one. Well, thank you, Grimlock Customs. Grimlock Customs. I knew it in, just a sidebar, I knew a fan in the Transformer fandom named Grimlick. I knew a guy named Grimlock, and now there's a Grimluck. So, Grimluck Customs. Going to roll off the tongue. I apologize for that. Either way, Transformers, I've said this, I think I've said this on one of the live streams in the past, but Hasbro really knew how to kind of take Transformers and, no pun intended, transform the brand in order to survive. Like when Transformers came out in 84, it kind of culturally became this zeitgeist that everyone associated a transforming robot with Transformers. There's been transforming robots long before Transformers ever made its debut in 84. But in the Western world, when you saw a transforming robot, it's a Transformer. Doesn't matter if it was a Power Ranger, doesn't matter if it was a GoBot, doesn't matter if it was Robotech, doesn't matter what it was. If it was a transforming robot, people associated it with Transformers. We see the memes online. We see the jokes. Someone sees a giant Gundam in Japan, they call it a Transformer. It's just how it is. But despite the fact that Transformers has had that ability to be relevant and be this huge piece of pop culture that'll forever be, its secret to its success actually was, despite the fact that it was steering the ship of transforming robots and people were copying them for the longest time and bootlegs and everything, they had to do their own little bit of copying in order to survive, and by them being Hasbro and Kenner in a lot of ways. And we're going to kind of go through that short little history of what they had to do to survive and how it worked for them, because you kind of have to do that in order to do that. And Transformers is not only guilty of it, other brands are too. I could do the exact same speech I'm going to do now. I could do it with Ninja Turtles also, because they also did something similar. But we'll get into that in another time. Maybe I'll save it for a Patreon listener question in the future or something. But let's talk about it. And it's funny because it actually kind of starts with Ninja Turtles, because 84 to 86, 87-ish, Transformers is on top of the world. Its biggest competition at most would have been, at best, G.I. Joe, and then the dwindling sales of He-Man. But in 1987, here comes these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And if you didn't live during that time, if you weren't around during, let's say, 87 to 93, Ninja Turtles took over the world. It was just the biggest brand ever. It really was. And Hasbro saw that. And, Transformers was still on the shelves, even when Ninja Turtles was at its peak popularity. And I would argue 90, 91. Transformers were on the shelves. But Hasbro had to do something in order to kind of stay relevant. And when Ninja Turtle sales went through the roof for Playmates in 87, and then the pre-orders were going crazy for 88 from distributors and stores, Hasbro had to pivot and kind of get in there and go, we got to do our own kind of mutants and monsters. And that's how they kind of interpreted the popularity of Ninja Turtles. And that's where the Pretenders came in. So the first time we had Transformers really trying to be something that was outside of what they've been trailblazing all this time was starting with the mutants and the monsters and the gross content, the mad balls and the Garbage Pail Kids. It's like they were just trying to go for that kind of content that was starting to bubble up inside of pretty much toys at that point, even though Garbage Pail Kids was just, at the time, trading cards. So they kind of tried to get a little bit of that. And then it's the same thing also, Pretender thing didn't really work out for them. It didn't get the final product they were hoping for. Oh, we're going to do monsters and we're going to have the designs be simple so kids could go back to simplistic transformations and be able to engage with our product. Then they looked at what was going on with that company Galoob. Oh, Galoob started this toy line called Micro Machines in late 1986, and it's selling hand over fist and making millions of dollars for Galoob. And this is before Hasbro owned Galoob. And they're like, well, we got to get on that. Look at it. Everyone likes micro stuff, Micro Machines. So we're going to make the micros that transform, as the commercial would call it. And they did MicroMasters. And there was MicroMasters trying to do what Micro Machines were doing. And even it looks like Micro Machine play sets that transformed. Like they literally were trying to do what Galoob was doing with MicroMasters. Once again, trying to do what was popular in pop culture, especially in the toy world. And then again, we go back, okay, so like 89, 90 with the MicroMasters. And then around that time, 90, 91, we have, especially like late 89, 90, 91, we have Toy Biz, Kenner, and their explosion with the 5-point of articulation stuff, be it, Batman and the X-Men and Marvel stuff through Toy Biz and Kenner. And there's Hasbro again scratching their chin going like, ooh, kids are really into just the generic 5-point kind of articulation action figure thing. Maybe we got to get in on that with our Transformer brand. And that's what Action Masters were. Action Masters were, let's just play the classics, take our characters and bring them to their first forms back in 84, and just make these Action Master characters. And the transformation aspect of it will be the accessories and the play sets and the vehicles. And it'll just be action figure Transformers. And that's them once again trying to, pave that path. But it doesn't end. It doesn't end every couple of years. Then, 1993, Bandai of America is going to finally start really doing the toy thing after years of just doing video games and stuff. And they're bringing over that, at the time, decades-long franchise of the Toku Sentai stuff. Tons of Toku stuff. And they were going to bring over Power Rangers. Zoo Ranger is going to be Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And Hasbro's like, we got to do something about that. Because now they're bringing their giant robots that transform and combine over. And so what did they do? When they reissued those Dinobots for G2 in 93, oh, you damn well make sure that your G2 Dinobots are also multicolored instead of just its standard gray that they've always been known for. Now, granted, Grimlock wasn't red like a certain red dinosaur. Slag wasn't blue like a certain blue dinosaur. And of course, they didn't obviously bring in Swoop and make him pink at all, because by then the bloom was already off the flower. But the point is that they were hoping to make a couple, as I like to call them, grandma mistake sales, where a certain grandma will pick up a Transformer thinking it's a Power Ranger or vice versa. And I actually know a few people that even you guys might know, that purchased those G2 Dinobots thinking they were Power Ranger product during Power Rangers' ridiculous hype. And again, much like Ninja Turtles, if you weren't around during 92, 93, 94 when Power Rangers just took over the world and was like the most popular thing ever with boys' toys, then you don't know. Let me tell you, it was crazy. And then we have also with the mid-90s, Hot Wheels was going through a huge renaissance with Mattel. They were putting out a whole bunch of speed tracks and everything like that. And Hasbro tried to kind of capitalize on that. Like, why don't we make some Transformer product that's also in that 1/65 scale, freewheeling wheels, and works on the actual Mattel Hot Wheels speed tracks. So imagine Hasbro making a product that is actually compatible with one of their competitor toy companies. And that was the GoBots of 1995. Of course, this was at this point where Hasbro had already bought and merged Tonka. They got all the GoBot trademarks, so they were going to use some of those GoBot trademarks, including the title of GoBots. And they made the GoBots line, which for people that aren't familiar, that's what the Spy Changer molds came from. And they were these 1/64 scale. You could put them on your Hot Wheels tracks, but they also transform, unlike your Hot Wheels cars. So again, kind of going with that. And then, and this is only a small one, but even our beloved era of 1995 to 2000, which was Beast Wars, which was when Transformers made a huge revival and was once again the number one selling boy toys and didn't have to copy people, but even Beast Wars had a little bit of it. And it was that of Jurassic Park. The success of Jurassic Park and dinosaurs and, a velociraptor looking like the way they do. It is what it is. Dinobot is what it is because, I firmly believe Dinobot wouldn't exist if not for the success of Jurassic Park. And even the choice of the packaging of Beast Wars, that huge dino eye, which is pretty much like the T-Rex scene when you have the little girl, I forget her name, and she puts the little flashlight through the window and it's the T-Rex eye looking right back at her with the pupil dilating. It's completely inspired by that. So Jurassic Park had a small little bit for Beast Wars, but Beast Wars wasn't really aping too much. It still was its own thing. It blazed its own path, and that's why Beast Wars is so celebrated in all this stuff that was kind of Hasbro just trying to keep up at this point. But outside of the Beast Wars thing, because 99, 2000, what came around again and took over the world? Pokemon. Who did Pokemon take over the world? Pokemon took over the world so much that there is a line by Jetstorm in Beast Machines where he says, "Gotta catch 'em all." That's how much they were just taking over the world, that even Transformers was quoting Pokemon. But the reaction to Pokemon with the mini-cons, "Gotta catch 'em all," and Transformers Armada, going from CG after all these years, doing stuff with mainframe and CG and CG and CG, and now Pokemon waking up all these retail companies going we don't have to make original animation. Let's import Japanese anime and do that instead. And that's where the co-development happened with Hasbro, and Armada was the return to anime for Transformers for the next couple of years because of Pokemon, and again, getting the mini-cons and collecting them because of Pokemon. So Armada, the mini-cons, totally because of what was going on with Pokemon. And then Hasbro also was looking at the tabletop world. There was this line of tabletop stuff by WizKid called HeroClix, which were these little tabletop, Marvel, DC, all kinds of different properties. And Hasbro wanted to get in on that action, so they created their own with all of their properties called Tactics. So you had Transformers Tactics, you had Star Wars, you had Marvel. They were trying all their own little stuff too. Of course, that didn't really work out, but they tried. And then you got Mattel with their Fisher-Price owned company, and they did a little something called Rescue Heroes, which found a lot of success in the play school market. And that whole Rescue Heroes line that ran for quite a few years, when it started to die down around, I want to say 2012, 2013, that's when Hasbro started to really go hey, maybe we could start doing stuff. And obviously they kind of tested the water a little bit with the GoBots line during the Rescue Heroes' prime popularity. But when Rescue Heroes was kind of going down, they slid in and no more Rescue Heroes. And here's Hasbro now, Rescue Bots. And let's make some Transformer toys for the preschool division. Of course, by then already Imaginext was doing stuff with all the different brands too. So it was kind of a no-brainer for Hasbro to start bringing all their big name properties and aiming at a younger demo to kind of get those kids young. But it doesn't end. What about the hugeness of Lego? Oh, Lego made this huge comeback. It's really popular. All of a sudden, people are buying the blind pack minifigs. The minifigs are this big thing now. Ooh, the individual minifigs. And there's this Lego movie that's in the works that are coming, and Hasbro knows about what's going on behind the scenes. So how does Hasbro capitalize on this new surge of Lego popularity? Well then, let's talk about Creo. And it was, Creo is a whole other discussion in itself. I've done individual segments talking about Creo, but Creo was pretty much an answer to Lego and their success. And it's another grandma purchase because people were buying Creo Transformers, and hey, I got a Lego Transformer. And I'm not talking the one that we had recently. I'm talking people thinking they actually bought a Lego Transformer. Creo had a very similar sound. Oh, Creo, Lego. And it's Transformers, which is a big brand, and, you know, make those mistake sales. But, you know, if Hasbro ends up selling like a $60, you know, Creo set as a birthday present, they did their job. They did their job. And then you got Spin Master. Spin Master, they had that extremely successful line Bakugan, which during its first 2 or 3 years was making tons of money for them. Again, it's an anime that involves transforming some kind of pearls or squares or whatever. And it had a playing element, a tabletop kind of playing element that kids liked, similar to that of a Beyblade or anything. And Hasbro's like, we got to get in on that too. You know, like we are the transforming element kind of, you know, property. So while Bakugan was making money for Spin Master, Hasbro's like, well, we got to do our own thing. And what did they do? They did Bot Shots. Now, Bot Shots, while it lasted for a couple of years, had very little success. They tried their best. I like Bot Shots. They're fun little figures. I think Bot Shots in the end was really just to keep a lot of trademarks. I think that's where it worked out in the best for them. But Bot Shots was another one where they just kind of went, you know what, we could make some money here. We can make some money here with these Bot Shots. And we could just go on and on. Like it's Mattel had their Pixar Cars die casts, which were doing ridiculously well and were very popular. And people were buying tons of the die cast of Cars from Pixar. And so again, Hasbro going on, we have our own sentient cars. And we can make our own die cast 1x64 sentient car line. And that was the RPM and Speedstars line, or the Speeds, or whatever. You know, Hasbro had different names for it internationally, but here in the West, it was RPM and then later Speedstars, which were 1x64 die-cast, non-transformable Transformer cars, just to kind of target that market. And hey, guys, you know, and these were made internally by Hasbro, not like today, where now you have all these companies like Jada and stuff licensing Hasbro and making die-cast cars and Hollywood rides and all of that. Hasbro was doing that internal because they wanted to get some of that Cars, Pixar Cars money. You know, turn over the Transformer. Oh, look, there's the robot mode. Oh, that's cool. And then one more. I think we'll do one more. And it's one that's probably the most recent of the bunch. The insane success that Moose Toys had with their Shopkins and Grocery Gang. Both of those, for Grocery Gang aimed at the boys and Shopkins aimed at the girls, both of those brands were making tons of money for Moose Toys, this small company that just kind of came out of nowhere and was doing absolutely great with it. These little blind bag Shopkins, you don't know what you get, and they're so collectible and everything, but they're also these little sentient, you know, items, whether it be a sentient, you know, glass of milk or a sentient shopping bag or a sentient this or that. And here's Transformers going, hey, man, that's our stuff. We could do sentient things that transform. And so Botbots was created as an answer to Shopkins and Grocery Gang, where they were blind packed. Some of them obviously came in sets too. And it's, again, another answer to what is popular. And there's more. There's so many more. But it's like, it's just to give you a small example of that's how Transformers stays relevant, is that they always look at what the world is doing and they scratch their chin and go, how do we do that with a Transformers spin on it? And granted, Transformers paved the way. They always did. They always did, you know, but at the same time, they always, you know, they take a little bit of this and that and they sprinkle it on themselves to kind of go, hey, we could still be cool too. I mean, let's put it this way. The success of the Michael Bay movies, whether you like them or not, led to other companies having confidence to do their own stuff. And I mean, let's be real. As much as the MCU and the Marvel movies kind of existed before the Michael Bay movies, they really had their confidence, especially when you look at Iron Man in 2008. They had their confidence because of the success of the Michael Bay Transformer movies and them going like, if people love this, then we could do that. So even Transformers, they paved the way too. You know, Transformers walked where Marvel MCU were able to run because Transformers walked. And that's the way that I've always seen it. And while Transformers, you know, right now it's kind of in a weird place. We got, you know, we're in limbo. We're going to see how this Earthspark TV series goes. We're going to see how, this Rise of the Beast movie goes. Our comic book is actually being canceled and is going to be with another company soon. We don't have, any word yet on another Netflix series or what's happening with a season 2 of Botbots. We're kind of in a weird limbo right now. Toys are great. Toys are fantastic, but I'm talking on a larger level, the mainstream level. That's where we're in a kind of a weird place. And doesn't always have to be like that. It's also fine to be hiding under the radar a little bit. But it's also good to sometimes see those Beast Wars eras or those G1 84, 85 or Michael Bay 2007, 2008, 2009 when we were on top of the world, ruling with an iron fist as people loved everything that we did. Anyways, guys, that's just my take. Let me know what you think. How does Transformers stay relevant? How does it stay relevant? And I hope that answers your question, Grim Luck Customs. And hope you learned something. It's a very interesting one. Always talked about this, but never got a chance to really put it all in one place. Talk to you guys soon. And again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag podcast, or you just want to, throw us a couple bucks and let us know that we're doing a decent job, again, patreon.com/Protoman. And thank you again, Grimluck Customs, for being a patron. And we'll talk to you all real soon.